Hi everyone, it is Beth with Flying by the Seed of My Plants, and I just walked around the garden actually a couple days ago really, and I took a bunch of pictures of my beautiful, absolutely gorgeous flowers. The pink flowers that you're going to see are the cosmos, and then the colorful different flowers, zinnias, and of course black-eyed Susans, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. And some of there is the lavender, and it attracts so many pollinators, which makes me very happy. And it just adds so much beauty. And one thing I like to do also is photography, and I'm far from being a pro, but I like doing it. So anyhow, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the pictures that I took of the garden, the flowers, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the year of gardening this year. It was a tough year, I think, for a lot of people. So let me go ahead and show you the pictures. It's about 2 minutes of looking at these beautiful photographs of the beautiful flowers in my garden, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about this year's gardening. Okay, so I really hope you enjoyed that. I think it's just gorgeous, especially when the different lighting hits, the different times of day. So different things I'm going to talk about, even stuff from last year. Last year, if you recall, if you were following, I did a video on getting rid of the groundhog. And last year the groundhog was pretty persistent, and every year since I've lived here. So The first year, no, because they didn't know the garden was here. And I think it took the next year before they really started coming in and making residency underneath my shed. And then every year battling the groundhog. So last year I did use that lavender Epsom salt and also a lavender like bath soap, and poured it down all the holes. And I consistently kept doing it. If it rained, I'd put more down. And I also used lime around the shed. And for a while there, they were not there, and this was last year, and then they did come back. In early spring, I think that they were under the shed, because Abby lets me know when they're there, and she starts barking at the shed and trying to dig and stuff. So I think it was even last year. I believe it was last year. One of the groundhogs, Abby, I let her out, and the groundhog was in the yard, and Abby ran straight for it. And she tossed that groundhog up in the air a couple of times. And I don't know if that was the final, like, they've had it with me. But this year, that one groundhog. So a combination of a lot of things, because I've had Abby now, she'll be 5, and the groundhog still came around every year. So it wasn't until after last year when I started putting the lavender and the soap down and the lime. The lime, from what I understand, it burns her feet. So I put that in different places around the shed, different places that I could see they were making a path coming from the yard behind me. And like I said, this year I have absolutely no groundhogs. Unbelievable. And I've been so afraid to say, because I thought as soon as I say it, they're going to be coming back to my yard, but they have not. So that part's been wonderful. We also have hawks, a family of hawks that live around here. So I don't know, they might have contributed to that, but the hawks have been around for a few years, so I don't know. I put a lot on the lavender. So anyhow, got rid of the groundhog. The other is this year with gardening. It has been just a very strange year for gardening. In the very beginning, it was very cold, unusual spring for us. Last year it was absolutely gorgeous, and it continued to be gorgeous throughout the year. The tomatoes did wonderful. This year it started out really cold. In fact, I did not plant my tomatoes and a lot of my plants until after the first week of June, because the weather was just up and down, and the temperatures, and it was also very wet. So anyhow, I finally got my tomato plants in, and shortly thereafter we went into a heat wave. So a lot of the tomato plants, grew. They started getting blossoms. As soon as the heat wave hit, a lot of the blossoms were falling off. Some people had more drastic, where the heat just actually killed their tomato plants. And so one thing I found throughout this gardening season, I lost a lot of blossoms, but was very patient. I wasn't sure if I was going to get any tomatoes. So the heat wave, I'd say probably, I don't know, I think a couple weeks maybe, has actually lifted. And it's been in the 80s, but not like the 90s, where the real feel was like over 100 degrees a few days. And so when that happens, you will lose blossoms, and that definitely happened to me. But once the heat wave started lifting, I started getting blossoms, and I now have tomatoes, and I am so excited about that. The cherry tomatoes, lots of cherry tomatoes, but they're ending, they're almost done, and which is kind of unusual. They didn't get really big. They were in my raised bed, so next year I'm really going to amend the soil in my raised beds. And every year I add compost and everything, but I think I'm actually going to dig down about a foot and put down new soil in my raised beds. I think that'll make a huge difference. And so, when things like this happen, with a hard garden year, it's definitely a learning experience. So hopefully everybody's gardens did well this year. And I still have a lot of gardening time left as far as the tomatoes, lots of green tomatoes out there. That makes me so happy. The cherry tomatoes, though, they're on their way out. The other one is the cucumbers, and they do like to be watered. So I have been making sure, once they dry out, which is daily, because it has been getting up in the 80s, and they are in a raised bed, so I make sure I water them, and I've been fertilizing them every week. Also, I fertilize the tomato plants, and they are beautiful. They're starting to show some signs of blight. Nothing really bad. They're doing great. And some drying, of course, and that's from the heat of the day. The cucumbers, I still have quite a few little baby cucumbers, and I want to try and get them to finish out to keep enjoying those cucumbers. The peppers are pretty much almost done. Now, along my fence, that's where I have my peppers. And along that fence, I have the issue of the tree roots. So I don't know if I'm going to plant that many peppers over there again. The cubanos didn't get as big as they could. So I think that was part of the problem, was the tree roots. And plus you have to keep fertilizing them. The peppers I planted around the greenhouse did wonderful. So that's why I'm kind of thinking it was the tree roots that were causing some of the problems with the peppers not getting that big. I picked a whole bunch of jalapeno peppers. Absolutely gorgeous. I have the colorful ones, the pumpkin spice, lemon spice, and but around the greenhouse I mainly did the bell peppers, and of course my zinnias and cosmos. Oh my gosh, you guys, the cosmos, just gorgeous. Well, they're all gorgeous. The snapdragons, I did videos on pruning that, so I really hope that helped a lot of you. I don't really hear a lot of responses. I do have my fan club, that watches, and they let me know they're watching, and I love that, and I thank you for that. Bee Balm was wonderful this year, and so right now we're about mid-August. I think today is the 11th of August, and one thing I did find also is my basil. So I have basil behind me in that green stalk, and it's doing absolutely wonderful, and I actually have to start harvesting that, and I want to make a pesto out of that. And then I also planted basil in my other green stalk, which is in the more direct sun for most of the day. My backyard is almost all sun all day, and they don't look as good as the ones behind me that are not in the direct sun all day. So that was another thing. With your garden, you learn what plants do well in certain areas of your garden. So I hope you took this opportunity of this year to be a learning experience, marking down things, what you might do next year. And I mean, we still have a lot of gardening time left, but I'm just putting that in here now just to start making notes. I have to get more fertilizer because I want to give another dose of fertilizer to the cucumbers, and I actually ran out of fertilizer. And I did another post on just the other day where I have yellow jackets in my frickin' greenhouse. So I bought 4 traps. I don't know how many there are, but there's a lot. And then I finally opened that door because they finally figured out that automatic window that opens on top of my greenhouse, and they were just going in and out of that. Abby, do you want a treat? You want a treat, Abby? All right, hang on a second. I got to get her a treat. You know how that goes. Every time I turn on the camera or get on the phone, she's like a child. She wants all her attention to go to her, unless I'm walking around, and then she just She follows and gardens with me. Hang on a second. Okay, so Abby's got her treat now. She's actually in the house. I don't know if she wants to come out, but anyhow. So I just wanted to kind of go over that. So now that we are mid-August, I'll still be getting a lot of the tomatoes. I'm still waiting on my Stars and Moon watermelon. Actually, I don't have any. So that bed has to be for next year. You know, I think I'll dig some out. And whatever soil that comes out of there, I'm just going to put it in my in-ground garden. And plus compost. I do have the compost bin, but it never makes enough compost, enough time to make enough soil for all my garden spaces. So, and I usually use the mushroom compost. But anyhow, I'm just going to redo some of my beds as far as the soil and replenish it. And hopefully that makes a big difference for next year. And this winter, as opposed to the predictions for us in Northeast Ohio, I've been, you know, seeing that it's going to be an unusually cold season. So we'll have to see how that goes. The other thing is the strawberries. I did a good dose of fertilizer, and I do have a lot more strawberries coming in now. So fertilizing your garden is so important. It really helps them a lot. And the other thing that's going to be coming up for me is saving some seed. The zinnia, you know, you want to wait until those flowers dry out. And this way you get the most viable seed for saving. Anything that you're saving seeds, peppers, tomatoes, you want to wait until they're fully ripe. Flower seed, milkweed, all of that. You want to wait, actually, I wait until the pod's open. And I know they're fully mature. And they don't blow away right away. I mean, you can capture a lot of seeds with the milkweed. And one thing I think I made a big mistake with the milkweed is you want to plant what is for your area when it comes to milkweed. So I do have the one milkweed plant that really hasn't spread a whole lot in my butterfly garden. But that's the one the monarchs like a lot. The other one, I mean, they like that too as far as the flowers go, but they don't really lay their eggs on it. And I don't think that's natural milkweed that I planted there for Ohio. So I'm going to research that more. Trying to think of anything else. You know, so pretty soon, right now you got a lot of harvesting going on. And I froze a couple bags of cherry tomatoes, and it doesn't take away the flavor. Of course, you do have to cook with them, and I like the cherry tomatoes for that feta cheese and cherry tomato Italian seasoning, and I use the penne pasta. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And you can freeze your peppers. You can freeze just about anything, or you can. This year I did not plant a lot of paste tomatoes, the San Marzanos or the Amish paste, because I still have tomato sauce that I canned last year, and I still have to use that up, so I just didn't want to get into all that canning this year. So anyhow, that's about it. So I just wanted to show you the pictures I took and how beautiful the flowers are, the garden, and just talk a little bit about things going on this year with my garden. And, you know, drop a message, say hi, and I really appreciate you guys, and I will talk to you on the next one. All right.